Former ANC President and MK party leader Jacob Zuma will appear virtually before the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals today. The body is said to hear Zuma's appeal against the proceedings, as well as the outcomes of the National Disciplinary Committee process in July, which led to his expulsion. Jacob Zuma is represented by ANC member Yengeni, who has been instructed to apply for a physical as well as public appeal process, as well as to raise a few other preliminary objections which need to be decided on before the appeal on the merits. Zuma's expulsion came after his then political home, the ANC, charged him with breaching the party's constitution after he endorsed the MK party during the 2024 general elections. All right, let's further expand on this discussion now with political analyst Mr. Bongani Mahlangu. Bongani, great having you with us as always. Mapogo, thank you so much for joining us. So Zuma is very confident on staying as a member of the ANC while proudly leading the country's biggest opposition. What do you think is the rationale behind this move?
Greetings to you in studio and greetings to the viewers at home. So basically, the reason behind this move, it's political, hence is pushing for a physical meeting, because a physical meeting would then generate political sympathy. A physical meeting would then develop content, or rather coverage, which is free airtime from the media and also other media platforms, be it formal or rather social media. And then that would also assist in generating the traction that the MK wants to generate, as they'll be launching their local government program, I think in the early parts of the new year in 2025. So it's all political play. And then if you look into even the appeal itself, we can already pick up what will be appealed to the National Disciplinary Appeal. That is a section 25.25 of the ANC Constitution. So that appeal would look at, for instance, you would remember when the NDC, the National Disciplinary Committee, which is a section 25.19 of the ANC Constitution, what it spoke about, or the procedure that would have taken place there, is that one, that Zuma was not present there. So he would then plea, or the NDC plead on his behalf, and they plead not guilty. Mm-hmm. So he was not there in person, they plead on his behalf. Also, even then, Zuma was pushing for that it must be open to the public, it must be in person. And then the other parts of the appeal that we expect, or the other part of the issues emanating from the charges of July and the procedures that would have taken place there, is that his representative, Yengeni, would have said that Mbalula, who came there to give a testimony, of which Yengeni did not cross-examine. Yengeni said that Mbalula had sent him texts before that sitting, and those texts he would then view those texts as threats, and as a threat because he'll be representing Zuma in the sitting itself. And also Yengeni said that Mbalula would have pushed or put pressure on the NDC to ensure that it proceeds with its work, even though the accused was not there physical, even though the accused would have pleaded that it is physical and also it is made public. And then also now you would have to go as well. Now, when we talk about the procedural issues, now I know I'm deviating a bit. So they've already went to the NDC. Now they're going to the appeal. But even after this, let's say the appeal is not favorable towards Zuma, he still has a provision that is given by section 25.29 of the ANC Constitution, where he can appeal, or rather send a review of the decision of the NDCA to the NEC. But you can only send such on basis on procedural fairness. Yes. So you would argue that the procedure was not fair because of the request of his that would not have been granted, because I do not foresee that they'll be granted, where after this decision is made, he will be given a provision of 21 days. So he will not just be appealing the charges that were given to him, or the order that would have emanated from section 25.17 of the ANC Constitution, where it outlines the acts of misconduct. Okay. But he would also then appeal the procedure that would have taken place leading to this point. So that means it is possibly still going to drag even beyond a decision of the NDCA.
Very interesting points there, Bongani, because it sounds like from what I'm gathering, from what you've stated, it sounds like there's already a predetermined outcome to this. So then is there any benefit or value then that Zuma could still have for the ANC and vice versa in this case? Because one has to then wonder if they were to then allow him to remain a member, in stark contrast of what you've just put forward, his duplicity surely cannot bode well for either organization, unless, of course, for a possibly future merge, which doesn't seem likely at this stage.
When it comes to a future merge, remember how MK looks at the ANC, or how they coin it. They call it the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yes.
We know that the time of Cyril Ramaphosa is limited now. I mean, people in the ANC are already preparing for the next national, Congress,
yes,
where a new leader will be elected. Hence, even Mbalula has been saying that people must not speak on succession because the Congress has not been declared yet, meaning succession talks have not been opened officially yet. But that will not stop people. So people are starting to prepare for a life beyond Cyril. So then they are banking on that the cabal or the people that support Cyril, they've led for 2 terms. Usually in the ANC, a faction is strong for 2 terms. So their strength is coming to an end. Their term is coming to an end. So there's a possibility subject to whom might emerge post the administration of Cyril. So that is just to cover the issue of a potential merger in future. Mm-hmm. But then who then benefits now? At current, the MK benefits because, as I said, Zuma still projects as the victim. If they appeal now, let's say the NWDC were to issue its outcome, even maybe today or even in the next week. Remember, they have 21 days to launch an appeal according to the constitution of the ANC in section 25. So that would mean it's probably end of November. Yeah. There is no sitting of the NEC that will process the matter of Zuma in December. And then in January, the ANC will be focused on the January 8th statement that will be taking place in the Western Cape. And then between January, let's say to March, then MK then launches its local government program. So then the media, you guys will be focused because then that means any sitting of the NEC that will process this matter will most likely take place around, let's say, February, March, which will coincide with the launching of their local government strategy. So then that means then they will be able to leverage of that attention that will be provided by South Africans, that attention that will be provided by the media in order to launch their campaign. So now that will put the campaign in the front pages, it will make it a breaking issue and so forth and so on. So that's why I'm saying this is a political play. And the MK in general, Zuma in particular, is generating traction, which he needs for his future objectives of going into the 2026 local government elections. Unfortunately, the ANC has their procedures that are articulated in their constitution and other pieces of their documents. So they cannot then deviate from that because it would be seen as prejudice. Then again, it becomes an issue of procedural unfairness. So they are forced to play the game, but they are not getting anything out of the game. The MK and Zuma are getting everything out of this game.
A very quick one, Bongani, speaking of those procedures now, and maybe in closing, looking at the history of how the ANC disciplinaries are actually conducted, is there really any point or need to proceed forward here? I mean, the SG has on numerous occasions said that Zuma is an expelled member of the ANC.
Again, it goes back to their policies. So as I said, when we read from section 25 going downwards, the ANC must entertain the appeal, meaning the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeal must, because it is legislated, it's in their constitution. And as I said, if failure of which, whatever outcome that comes out, or an unfavorable outcome to Zuma can appeal that to the NEC. And again, in the NEC, the very same members that would have sat in the NDC and the NDCA are not allowed to sit in that NEC meeting. So they are bound by their constitution to process this thing accordingly. Should they deviate, it will also raise legitimacy issues of the ANC, that they have rules and policies that they do not take serious, and they might lose credibility, not just within the members of the ANC, but in public in general. So they are forced to process this matter according to the legislation or according to the policies that are in place that have been adopted by Congress, which is now the Constitution of 2017, the last time it was amended. So they cannot deviate from that process. Should they deviate, then they are going to lose in terms of procedural fairness. And remember, Zuma also has a provision to go outside the ANC when he has frustrated all platforms of the ANC. That would mean to go to court, to say, I've frustrated I've exhausted internal processes and there was procedural unfairness, this and that and that. So he can still go to court as a final arbiter on the matter. So that's why I'm saying this matter has a long way to go. But unfortunately for the ANC, they cannot deviate from their own processes. They have to process it according to their constitution, even though it comes at a political cost to them.
All right, and then Bongani, what about the fact that there could still be a possibility that Zuma still enjoys quite a lot of support from within the ranks of the ANC, even though some of those members are just not going to decide to jump ship yet at this stage. So how does this then affect the party as we head on to the LGEs?
So the thing is, as so much as people may not jump, as so much as people may not take up membership, but people do vote. And what we have seen even in the May 29 elections is that there are members of the ANC that still hold, they're card-carrying members of the ANC. However, when they entered that booth, because it's only you and the ballot, they would have supported a person or an organization that they like. So they don't need to necessarily wear MK regalia in order to demonstrate such support. Unfortunately, these are political parties that then determine their relevance through electoral processes. So not necessarily by how many people can you put into a stadium, how many people can wear your T-shirts, or how many people are within your membership. For instance, if you look at the EFF, they said that they had a membership of 1 million plus, but then unfortunately they got what they got from elections. Because when people enter the ballot, LGE or general elections, that's where your real support it gets tested. And what the MK knows is that they don't really need people to swap T-shirts, but they need people to enter that ballot and place their support behind them, because that's where it counts the most. That's where you generate seats. That's where you enter the public service. That's where they'll take over councils, MMCs, which is executive positions, and so forth and so on. So they are banking on that. They don't need to fill up stadiums.
All right, and as we've heard, Bongani, various ANC leadership has conceded that there were ANC members in good standing wearing ANC regalia who went into the polls and actually voted for the MK. Great discussion as always, Bongani. That is Bongani Mahlangu, the political analyst on Zuma's disciplinary hearing in the ANC, which we understand is currently taking place or is set to take place today.